Good morning, everyone. It's Christophe Choo from Coldwell Banker in beautiful Beverly Hills, California, hot Beverly Hills, California, and muggy Beverly Hills, California. We've had a pretty big heat wave the last couple days. It was 109 yesterday. It's going to be 100 today. It's already about 90 at 11:30 a.m. And we had rain and thunderstorms, which is pretty not atypical, not typical here in the Los Angeles area, or Beverly Hills area, I should say. So it's been a hot couple of days, lots of rain, lots of humidity. So my hair's kind of all messed up. But anyways, that's beside the point. I thought I would talk a little bit today about the home buying process. And the reason being, and I've been doing this now for 28 years, selling real estate all throughout Los Angeles. And after a while doing this for so long, it's ingrained in me. So I just kind of assume buyers know what's going on and how to buy. And obviously, I work with first-time buyers, there's a lot of education involved in the process of explaining how it all works. And but I also realize of late that sometimes owners have been in a home for 15, 20, 10, 30 years, and they're upgrading. And they haven't bought in 20, 15, 30 years. So things change quite dramatically in our industry, particularly I'd say every 6 months things are changing. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what that process actually is in terms of buying a home. So first and foremost, you need to select a professional real estate broker. You need to look at friends for recommendations. You need to search online, look at people's reviews, and really find a quality broker. Some buyers take the stance of they're going to work with every broker in town, which is really not a good stance because brokers, look, time is money. And when a buyer is loyal to me and they work with me exclusively, I take the time and really work hard to find them the right property. If you're talking to 5 or 10 or 3 different agents that are running around town looking for properties and you're not exclusive, you're really setting yourself up for a disaster, in my opinion. I've seen many buyers do that, and they end up coming to me and I end up finding them a house. So first and foremost, find a qualified, reputable broker with a track record and someone you like. That's why I like doing videos, because you get to know me without meeting me. And then you decide ahead of time if you even want to work with me or even like me. So it's important to like your broker. That's pretty important. I also suggest, once you find the right broker, signing a buyer's agency agreement so that you know that broker is working for you and that broker knows that he's also working for you. So that's a very important aspect to start off with. Second part of the process is there's 2 kinds of buyers. There's all cash buyers and there are buyers that get financing. So obviously, if you're an all-cash buyer, that's great. And most of my transactions, I'd say maybe 95% are all cash. So I like that for me. And others do get financed. So if you're all cash, you want your money to be in the bank. If you're a foreign investor, the money should be in a U.S. bank already, or in a bank that's easy to transfer money to the U.S. from your country to the U.S. So Europe is generally not a problem. Hong Kong is not a problem. China has been difficult of late. So money preferably should be in a U.S. account, or sometimes they're with their lawyers' accounts and then the lawyers transfer the funds. So money should be in a bank account. You should have a letter from your banker or a banking statement showing you have the funds if you're buying cash. Because if you happen to find a house quickly and you make an offer, you need to provide that verification to the seller that you have money in the bank for your purchase price and the closing costs. Hey, Pat, how are you? Thank you so much for enjoying my topic. Pat is the president of our California Association of Realtors. So thank you for watching. I'm honored that the president of our association is watching. And we have I forget how many million agents in California. Anyways, thank you, Pat. So so that's it. So if you're cash, you want a bank statement or a copy of a current statement showing you have the funds. And of course, many buyers like to be private. I sign confidentiality agreements all the time, and we can make it confidential with just the seller and or their agent or attorney, depending on who's involved in the transaction. If you're going to finance the property, that's also great, because it will be cash to the seller, meaning they'll get cash when it closes. But what you want to do is get fully pre-approved, not pre-qualified, pre-approved. Pre-qualified simply means you've talked to a mortgage broker or your bank. They pull up your credit score, and based on a credit score, based on what you've told them in terms of your income and assets, you are pre-qualified for a loan. That really doesn't count, particularly in a competitive real estate market. And in the last 6, 7, 8 years in Los Angeles and across the country, it's been an extremely competitive market. So if you're competing against other buyers on a property, which most buyers are today in all price ranges, the more proof and verifications you have, if you're all cash, that's stronger than a pre-approved buyer, which is stronger than a pre-qualified buyer. So pre-approved means you have to take the time to meet with the mortgage broker. They have to pull your credit report, get copies of your 2 or 3 years last tax returns, your paycheck stubs if you're W-2. Again, they pull your credit, paycheck stubs, verify your stock portfolio, your assets, the properties you own, etc. So that process of pre-approval can take 3-4 days on the shortest end of the stick if you're a private banking client or borrow money on your portfolio, or it could take 2 to 3 weeks with the lender if you have to provide them, the tax returns, they pull the credit reports and the paycheck stubs. So if you're working for a company and you have an employer, there can be delays in getting that information. But the bottom line is you want to get fully pre-approved for financing if you're looking to buy and you're getting a loan. I don't even go out and take buyers out to look at homes unless they're pre-approved. And it's not because I don't want to, but the reason is sometimes what happens, you could be a buyer, you're out looking at homes, you don't think you're going to buy right away, and you happen to fall in love with a house. You want to make an offer, which sometimes they do, and you're not pre-approved, and you make an offer and you're just pre-qualified, and the next buyer is pre-approved and the other one's all cash. Guess what? The seller's going to take the strongest deal, which is usually the cash deal or the pre-approved deal. So not getting pre-approved really puts you at a major disadvantage in trying to get a home, particularly in a competitive environment as we are still today. So that's the first part of the process. Next thing is starting to educate yourself. I do a lot of videos about neighborhoods, areas, price ranges. So I think it's a good idea when you're starting to think about searching, you search Google about the neighborhood. You search YouTube to find out about price ranges and area tours. Check out Zillow, check out Trulia, check out all the online sites. You start to educate yourself in terms of the price ranges in the areas you're looking at, the market time for these homes. For example, in LA, you can go to themls.com, which is our broker's real estate site, and sign in as a guest and really get up-to-the-minute data on the marketplace. Or sign up on a great local website. For example, my ChristopheChoo.com website, you have access to all the listings in the MLS. You have access to all the different neighborhoods, price ranges, property categories, video tours. So sign up on a great website like mine, and you can sign up for the MLS system where you put in your criteria, and you'll be automatically emailed properties that come up in the price range in the areas that you're searching. So search a lot, research a lot, do your homework, because as a buyer you need to do that so that you are educated, because your broker who's qualified will help you through the process, but you really need to be educated yourself in terms of the homes in the area, the schools, the shopping, what it is you really want and what the general price ranges are there. So you go around looking with your broker, go to open houses. I always suggest going to open houses. When my clients go to open houses, because I can't go with them everywhere, I give them a stack of business cards. They hand the business card to the listing agent or the broker holding the open house and let them know I'm working with them. That way, you sign in my name, and then the broker's not calling you all the time trying to get you as their client. So good suggestion. Hire a broker, get a whole bunch of cards, and then when you go to an open house, sign in your broker's name and phone number and not your own. So let's say all of a sudden you find the right house and you're in love and you want the house. If a house is on a scale of 1 to 10, you should write down your list of things you really want in a home. Write down the top 10 most important things for you in a home. And if you find a home that's a 7 or 8 out of 10 on your list, you probably really should consider buying it, because honestly, the hardest thing in real estate for the last 28 years is finding the right home. Homes are so personal, and finding the right one is really tough. And I've had a lot of situations where buyers found the right home. I knew it was the right home. It was too early in their search. They weren't quite sure, and they didn't make an offer, or they didn't accept the seller's counteroffer. And just about every single case that's happened, the buyers in the future regretted that decision. So it's really, really very important. So when you find a home and you like it, you got to make an offer. Sit down with your broker, consult with them, because a top broker can really advise you what to offer. Quite often buyers will say to me, first question, how much can we offer off the asking price? Well, there's no percentage. Every house is different, and that's why you have a qualified broker, because as an agent, I spend 3 hours every week on Tuesday Caravan previewing every house on the market. I also, during the week, preview an additional 5 or 10 or 40 or 50, depending on what buyers I'm working with that week. So I have seen pretty much every house and condo and property in our market area, except for apartment buildings, because most of those are never open for the brokers. So as a broker, I can advise a client in a very professional way what they should offer. And sometimes you have to offer over the asking price. I mean, I have sold homes for as much as 25% over the listed price, and they were worth it. Others, we offer below the asking price. But that's my job as your broker, to pull the comps, show you the comps, explain to you the whys and hows of why I'm suggesting a particular price offer. And, I always strategize with the buyer. We opened an escrow 3 weeks ago, and I strategized with the buyer. The property's price was a certain, certain number. I asked them what was really, honestly, between them and me, their top limit. We didn't offer the top limit to start, but we did offer relatively close to that, because I believe truly you offer as close to the asking price as you can without giving away the farm. Meaning, I always leave a little room for margin, but typically in my experience, and I sell primarily listings, so I'm on the listing side, the closer you write an offer to the seller's bottom line, which we never know, the better price you will ultimately get as a buyer. Because if you write a good offer or a decent offer, the seller thinks you're real, thinks you're reasonable or fair. They're never going to love your first offer usually, and they're more willing to negotiate. Whereas if you offer too low, or you lowball them, as they say, sellers get offended. People tend to be very entrenched in their homes and have a certain idea, and they get antagonistic on low offers, and they tend to, the lower the offer that comes in with my sellers, the higher they counter. The closer the offer, the easier it is to bridge the gap. So follow your broker's advice in terms of what to offer, and you make your offer. Sometimes you can go back and forth 1 or 2 times. Once in a blue moon, it gets accepted the first time. Other times it can take 25 times. I've done deals where we've gone back and forth 22, 25 times. I'm not kidding you, with my buyer or with my seller, but ultimately we made the deal. So every seller is different, every buyer is different, and every situation is different. So just again, if you hire a professional broker, you'll really be able to get the right advice and get the best possible value on purchasing that home. Okay, your offer gets accepted, then what? Wow, it's exciting when that happens. That's the first step. We open an escrow. So here in California, escrow is a neutral third-party corporate company, whereas the holder of all the contracts and paperwork to ensure that the seller does what they're contracted to do and the buyer does what the buyer's contracted to do, and also facilitate the process of the loan approval, the loan closing and funding, or the buyer's money wiring and funding, and the title. So that's basically what it is. So we open an escrow. Typically in Los Angeles, you offer a 3% deposit of the purchase price to open the escrow, which you would typically wire into escrow within 3 business days of acceptance of the offer. Sometimes we make it more if we're in a competitive bid situation. I usually recommend offering more, maybe 5%, even 10%. I've had deals where we've offered literally on a 5-day all-cash escrow with no contingencies. We've offered the full all-cash amount the second day or third day we open escrow. It shows the seller that you're serious. We sign a deal, it's a 5-day escrow, and hey, we're going to wire you $7 million tomorrow and show you that we're serious about this property. Don't worry as a buyer, because when you make your deposit, as long as you have contingencies, that money is not the seller's. That money will remain in escrow, the neutral third party, pending the final closing. And if you disapprove of the inspection or disapprove of the title, or the loan doesn't get approved, you have a right as a buyer to get that deposit back without any penalties in most cases. And again, escrow, once the money is held in the escrow account under your name as a buyer, neither you as the buyer nor the seller can touch that money or get that money without mutual consent of both parties. So if you happen to cancel the deal, both parties have to agree, sign an amendment releasing those funds back to the buyer, and then the deal's canceled and it's done. Otherwise, it stays there until escrow closes, and then at the closing date, that money is applied to the seller with the loan proceeds or your cash, and then the deal closes, money transfers to the seller, and title transfers to you. So when we open escrow, a title report is opened, a preliminary title report. Typically, the seller pays for the seller's title policy, which is for them to ensure you as a buyer get free and clear title to the property, meaning there's no liens, there's no judgments. You'll be aware of any public utilities easements, city easements, association rules, condominium rules and restrictions. So that's all part of the title policy. And as a buyer, if you have an all-cash deal, you don't pay any title fees. But if you have a loan, you as a buyer will pay for the lender's policy of title insurance. And there's a specific calculation and fee. And again, as a top broker, I just opened my title book, sit down with my buyer and say, okay, you're buying a $1.2 million property, your loan's going to be $1 million, so this is the amount of your title policy. So you open the escrow, you wire your money, they order a title report, which you'll review to make sure everything is clean, and again, your agent and the title officer will review that, explain to you what's on the title report so you can review it and make an accurate decision. As part of the title, if you're in a hillside property or land, sometimes you can get surveys to determine exactly where the boundaries are of the property. It will let you know if there's any encroachments or easements. So that's all part of the discovery process of investigating about the property you're buying. So speaking of investigation, most offers are contingent upon inspections. So as a buyer, I generally recommend a general home inspection where the inspector who's licensed comes out and checks everything in the house. The roof, the plumbing, the electrical, the foundation, the water systems, the sewer systems, pretty much all the systems of the house. That's a general inspection. I also highly recommend, if the house has fireplaces, you get a chimney inspection. First of all, the inspection costs for a home can range anywhere from $500 to $10,000, depending on the size of the home. A chimney inspection is typically $350 per chimney. And they come out, they do a visual inspection, and actually send a camera up the chimney. They go on the roof and they check for leakage, they check for the construction of the chimney, make sure it's approved, make sure it's to code, make sure there's no breakage. So that's a very important inspection. And then the third inspection I always recommend is a sewer line inspection. Back when I started, it didn't exist, but in today's world, we sent out a third inspector, which basically brings a video camera. They send it down the main sewer line to confirm that from the house connection to the city sewer connection, that the line is not broken, it doesn't have root intrusion, it's not compromised, because sewers can be a big deal. You don't want a broken sewer pipe. It's unhealthy, it can be very expensive to repair. So those are the three main inspections I highly recommend right up front. Once we have the general inspection, your general inspector will also make other recommendations. Perhaps you want to do a mold inspection if there's possible evidence of mold, maybe a air conditioning and heating inspection if you see some issues with that. Some appliance inspections can be done. Oftentimes there are foundation inspections by a foundation expert that comes out. Geological inspections if there's potentially soil issues or if it's a hillside property. So there are many, many, many inspections that can be done. And it's all kind of specific to the area, the type of property, the type of construction, and what your general inspector will recommend. Once you get all those inspections reports, don't be freaked out, because quite often a lot of things will come up. That's the inspector's job, to let you know everything and anything you need to know about that house. So review it with your broker, spend a lot of time reading it. These reports are 40 and 50 pages thick sometimes. I do read all the reports so I can accurately advise my clients of what other inspections to do, or when the time comes to try to renegotiate repairs or credits, then we can discuss that intelligently. Once you've reviewed all that, basically one of three things will happen. Again, in California, properties are sold in as-is condition. You have a right to inspect anything you want. Once you've inspected, you can either approve it as it is and buy the property based on the original price. You can say, oh, I still want to buy the property, but I want a credit for X amount of things we found on the inspection. You can say, I want to still buy the house, but I want you, the seller, to repair X amount of items on the property. Or you can just say, you know what, this is a lot more than I expected. I didn't expect all these issues, which oftentimes that happens, but there's a lot more issues than anybody even thought of. And you can decide to back out of the transaction. You put a notice to cancel the transaction, and you would get the seller would sign off, and you get your deposit back, and then you would find another house. So once that's all done, and you negotiate a credit, or you negotiate for repairs, or you just simply sign off, then you move forward on, during that process, the loan is being approved. So typically, once the escrow is opened, the lender will get a copy of the title policy because they want to make sure you're getting clean title. Number two, the lender will order an independent appraisal. They will hire their own appraiser to come to the property to take a look and give an independent evaluation of the value to make sure that the property appraises for the price you've contracted. So if it sells for $1 million and it appraises for $1 million, you're fine. Every once in a while, properties will appraise for more than they sell, what you purchased it for. So don't worry, buyers, you don't have to pay more if it appraises for more. It just happened today. I sold one 3 weeks ago for my buyer. We really negotiated a great deal, and I got word today that the appraisal came in slightly above what we signed off on. So I think my buyers are happy. Once in a while, they appraise for less than the appraised value. If that happens and the seller won't come down to the appraised value, you can get a second appraisal, you can get a third appraisal, all by the same lender. And sometimes they come in different, sometimes they come in the same. And one time I had a deal where we had 3 appraisals. The buyer still wanted the house. The seller would not come down to the appraised value. It was a $500,000 house, and it appraised at 475. This is 20 years ago, 3 times. The buyer really wanted the house. We all felt it was worth it, but it was a downtime in the market. So we basically ended up negotiating a split difference. The buyer paid half the money in cash extra towards the appraisal. The seller came down half, and we split the difference. So you have your appraisal. Once that's done, that's part of the process of getting the loan approved. So you've approved the title report, your loan is approved, your appraisal's been done, and basically it's getting close to closing time. So at that point towards the end, in California, the seller has certain requirements for low-flow toilets, low-flow shower heads, carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, and these are all things that typically the seller will do. Oh, also, as a buyer, it's a good idea to have a termite inspection or pest control inspection to see if there's any pests in the property, any dry rot, wood damage. Those can be very costly expenses. That's part of your initial inspection process, which I forgot to mention. So once that's all done, it's typically an escrow period is 30 to 45 days. If a loan's involved, if it's cash, it can be 5 days on the short end. I've done some for 3 days, up to 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on the deal. So it's, 5 days to 45 days is kind of the standard escrow period. So escrow's about ready to close. There's really not much left you have to do as a buyer at that point. It's all done with the escrow company, the title company, the lender, and the banks, and myself, and we all coordinate that process. Really, the last bit and piece is you're going to be signing loan documents. When the loan is approved, they will send loan documents to your escrow to sign at the escrow office, or you can go to your bank and sign them with the mortgage company or mortgage lender, but it's usually done at escrow because it has to be notarized. Those are sent back to the lender, they're stamped off, and then they're ready to fund and close. So the last 3-4 days, you wire the balance of your down payment, whatever that is, or you wire the balance of your full all cash, and then the bank wires the loan amount that's approved to the escrow. So then escrow has all the money. They have the free and clear title, they have all of your money, and they have the signed grant deed from the seller. The grant deed is the legal document that basically the owner says, for the consideration of X amount of dollars, we are granting you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, title to this property, which is now your property. So the day of closing, the money transfers to the title company. The title company has the recording document. At 8 a.m. in Los Angeles is when documents record. They go to the county recorder's office. They hand the grant deed to the title recorder. The recorder stamps the document. It is officially recorded. It is now your property. And then typically around between 1 and 4 or 5 o'clock on the date of recording, we will get legal notification from escrow that the deal has recorded. And those are the 3 favorite words. You have recorded. 3 favorite words in business. You have recorded, which means transfer has occurred legally, money has transferred hands. So the property is now yours, Mr. Buyer, and Mr. Seller, you have all the proceeds that you had agreed upon. So that's kind of how the process works. Sounds pretty simple from this brief little video. A lot of things can happen in an escrow process, and 28 years later and probably 600 transactions almost, I've been through just about everything. However, almost every deal something new happens, and that's what I'm here for. I've got all the best people around me to help ensure as smooth and successful a transaction as possible. I love what I do, and that's all part of the fun. So I hope this was a little bit educational to help you understand about the process of buying, whether you're a first-time buyer or a third, fourth-time buyer that hasn't bought in a number of years. And property taxes. That's the last thing I didn't talk about. Property taxes, you'll pay a prorated portion when you close. And then property taxes, you'll be paying about 1.25% a year based on the purchase price, approximately. And you'll be paying that in November and April, I believe it is. I forget the exact date. So November and April. And so if your property taxes are $20,000 a year, you pay about 50% in October, and then the rest in November. So that's the process. So money's transferred, you now have a new home. We call you, we tell you about all the great news, and then we celebrate. And with me, I take my clients out to an amazing dinner, or we go out of town for a little event, do something fun. So anyways, that's the home buying process. If you're looking to buy a home in the Los Angeles area, it'd be my pleasure to help you. My number is 310-777-6342. You can check out my website, ChristopheChoo.com, and that's today's news. Maria Lopez, how many transactions? I think I've done about, I know it was 500. It's been 28 years now. As of a year or so ago, I don't know exactly, well, maybe it's not 600, but it's somewhere in the 500, 550 range. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed my little talk today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon in the world of real estate in Beverly Hills and Los Angeles. Take care now.